while we are waiting for them to come online, I want to frame this conversation. So we have barely a few days to the Anambra elections, and Anambra is now like a war zone, which is sad. And but before the Anambra election, beyond the Anambra elections, the Southeast has become a war zone. And this is principally from the activities of IPOB/ESN and now of the unknown gunmen. So I want to differentiate the two because IPOB and the unknown gunmen are two different issues. Why there are two is that while IPOB and ESN may have adopted some violent tactics, there are also some people, most of them criminal elements, who have also taken advantage of the situation and are now visiting violence upon our people. So today we want to have a conversation because we are basically, as you know, we are businessmen. We are one of the economies with the lowest incidence of poverty, and we also have a very high level of literacy in our zone. We have a lot of complaints about how our zone should run. And so all of those issues we are going to be discussing. Dr. Sam Amadi has joined us studio. He's live now. We are waiting for Senator Abaribe. Senator Abaribe is in a meeting with some Abia union people with him. So they are all joining us, himself and those in his house right now. So we are waiting for him to come on stream. But before he comes on stream, I would like to take Dr. Sam Amadi and ask him, I have framed the issues that there have been agitations around the world about separation. There has been in Quebec, there is agitation in Catalonia, in other places. Is that a good strategy to turn the area that wants that separation into a war zone, to intimidate the people in that zone? Or is there a strategy to continue to improve that area to make it possible that when they thoroughly become free, then they have all the assets and the capabilities to run a new nation? So I would like Sam to just start off by framing the issue. What do you think are the challenges in the Southeast now? How has the IPOB, ESN, and the unknown government issue become a major challenge for us now in the Southeast?
Well, I think the first major challenge is first psychological. The notion that people feel that they're under siege. Don't forget that before now, the UNDP report says that Southeast was the most peaceful of the regions in Nigeria. So first is a change of psychology. People feel a little bit, it's like an unexpected siege. That's number one. Secondly, the notion of insecurity and violence, no matter the cause of it, degrades social capital. So essentially, if it continues, people begin to see life as maybe no more dignified. We can flash back to the Civil War. Much of literature shows that after the Civil War, some of the crises of human behavior, armed robbery, killing, ritual killing, and so on, became rampant because of a certain degradation of human life, a certain indignity people encountered daily. So they could see people killed off, they saw gun was available. So it deteriorated social capital so that some of the rituals, some of the things people fear about, what they call unsani or unsala, things that people are afraid, taboos, were no longer possible. So
just pausing 1 minute. I want to welcome Senator Abaribe to this conversation.
Yes, not just me alone. I have Abia Development Association here. I have Reverend Paul from Canada. There are all manners of people here. I have
Excellent.
I have Ebere Ifendo, but it's Ebere Ifendo, you know her, the chairperson of Women in Politics.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Welcome. So just a minute, Dr. Sam Amadi is just beginning the statement, and then I will come back to you, Senator Abaribe.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So like I was saying, during the Civil War, we saw a situation where life became short, brutish, and nasty, and it unleashed a whole lot of social pathologies, crisis, killing, armed robbery. Some people allege 419. They all came at the heels of the Civil War because of the way life was debased. So the crisis of violence in the South is not just about the economic toll that's very high now. Southeast has lost global economic competitiveness in Nigeria. So many people are not going to be coming to Owerri for tourism. They're not going to come into Owerri for even investment or Anambra, including natives. So the Akurulo project is undermined. But more important for me in the long term is the way the cities around Southeast, Newe, Onitsha, Aba, Owerri, Umuahia, deteriorates because of a certain level of loss of social capital. So primarily for me, the lasting effect is that we got debased psychologically, social capital is reduced, and then you unleash a cycle of antisocial behaviors that come with when lives can become brutish. People can see dead bodies, people are shot, the heads have been, people's heads are now a thing of football. It's a massive psychological deterioration, a massive change in social capital that affects economy, entrepreneurship, and almost social stability in the long term.
Okay, thank you very much. Distinguished Senator, I would like to continue the conversation around asking the question. So we are framing the issue. I have said that there are three trends happening in the Southeast now. We have the IPOB ESN group. We have the unknown government, who I believe is an amorphous name for the cover of criminal elements and other types.
Go on.
Hello? Yes, and other criminal elements who want to hijack the situation for their personal gains. And then we have also the military and the Nigerian state, who are also either by way of trying to control the issues, are also exacerbating the violence. So my question to you will be, is this a good strategy by those who are getting cooperation to use the violence and intimidation of the local economy to draw attention to?
Well, obviously, it's not a good strategy. Obviously, we all know that we are the people that are suffering from it. Now, this strategy of sit at home, we've got to know is copied from the Ambazonia side of Cameroon. And what is going on in that southern part of Cameroon today is a very, very difficult thing that if it continues in Igbo land, everyone in Igbo land is going to suffer. They no longer go to school there. They no longer go to markets. They no longer carry out any economic activity. In other words, the government that they are fighting against at the central part of Cameroon have ignored and abandoned them. So I think that there must be a change in strategy. There's absolutely no way we can continue this way and it will be good for the Igbo. At the moment, it's not fruitful strategy for us to use. Our people outside of Igbo land do not understand exactly what happens within our place. And so they may just continue to encourage and say, well, go ahead and do it. Let us put pressure. But those who are inside there is pinching very much. And not a lot of people know what to do about it. The man who makes a daily living has to go out every day and make a life for his family. He can't. He has to sit at home. Banks are not open. Businesses are not open. Nobody knows what is going on. And the economic cost of the most critical thing is this, especially for those of us who live in Aba. People come from outside of Igbo land, come to Aba, they stay in the hotels over the weekend, they buy things. By Mondays, they will finish and leave. Now, they no longer come. They're looking for alternative places to go. And so all the income that we used to get, all the customers that they have now gradually started to get their suppliers from elsewhere outside Igbo land. And you know what's going to happen with this? In the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months, anybody who has created an alternative source of getting whatever he wants will not come back. And that closes up that whole place entirely. So it's a very difficult time for us as Ndibo, and it's not a good strategy for us to continue. Thank you.
So the consensus I see here is that this is not a good strategy to pursue, and but there are serious issues of people feeling alienated, people feeling that Nigeria has not treated Igbos well, and these issues, many people say, has fallen into the hands of non-state actors because state politicians like all of us, senators like you, House of Rep members, governors, are not standing up to defend Igbo people. Is that something that will warrant this kind of behavior? Is that an issue that needs to be addressed, the issue of leadership? I'll start with Sam before we get to Senator Abaribe.
Well, I think there is 2 issues here. One is there is a reason for the agitation and maybe for the level of misbehavior that Distinguished has talked about. So, but is it education? Is that appropriate response? So I agree with you that at 2 levels. At the level of federal government, the Buhari administration has orchestrated, not just for Southeasterners, but across the country, a pushback, a very debilitating hostility that people have against the idea, even the Nigerian state. So one can argue, with due respect, even though insecurity, the Biafra campaign, when I was special advisor to Ndukwe, you know very well, in the US, we confront many Nigerians who express very strong reservation about the Nigerianness and some nostalgia for Biafra. But it wasn't at this level. The realism of it is not at this level. So one can argue first that the governance structure of the Nigerian Federation now, the symbolisms of public leadership kind of create a sense in which many of the Southeasterners, especially the young ones, totally feel alienated and develop hostility to the idea of Nigeria, as well as hostility to politics as the art of doing justice, as a search for common ground and for belonging. So that level of the federal government, yes. At the level of the state government, it's clearly that there's a clear evidence that the governorship, gubernatorial leadership at the Southeast has been very, very poor. Not just in terms of infrastructure, job creation, so there's a technical aspect, But the moral leadership, the notion of responsiveness to the people's cry for issues. Take, for example, the killing of Southeastern youths through unfair policing. I have to write a letter to the governor, the MNA killing, for example. I wrote to the governor of Southeast, the governor of Enugu State. I said, Governor, set up a judicial inquiry to find out who killed 21 youths, allegedly who were on a school premises doing physical exercise and so on. Now, the governor is not fighting the federal government. The governor is simply carrying out a simple duty of an inquest, an inquiry. What happened to these young people? It didn't happen. We went to court. The state government tried the case, defended, and argued that nobody died. So that level of insensitivity, that level of lack of response to issues of existential crisis is the kind of things that contributed to this level of reckless reaction by the youth. So you look at this around, for example, the whole notion about Fulani herdsmen. I mean, there's some argument that we don't have that level of forest in Imo State or in maybe Anambra, Abia, maybe
Sam, we are not hearing you. Sam, we've lost your audio. If you can hear me, we can't hear you, Sam.
okay.
Sam, we can't hear you, Sam. So if you can hear me, I want to go back to Senator Abaribe while I sort out your audio issue.
Yeah, but I'm here with Captain Wachuku.
Okay, Captain, I can see him.
Yes, he's with me. So I told him that he should join. Let other people also put their voices in.
Yes, very important. Very, very good.
My honorable Minister.
I greet you, my brother. Good day.
Look, people are doing it. You all are doing a very good job.
Yes.
I think it's got to a point where some of us must inject ourselves into this forum of seeking this peace or looking for this peace. Because our younger brothers back home or around the world sometimes feel we have failed. But I tell some of them that we have not failed. It's just a matter of miscommunications between us. But Honorable Minister, anytime you put up a group, I'd like to be part of it, this peace group.
Yes.
Let's go and talk to these young men. Let them know they're not the only ones in this pain. All of us have children, and our children are beginning to have their own children. So it's not a game that they're just the only ones there. And that's why I told Senator Abaribe that I would like to speak and want to belong to you. I'm happy you're the one who is the chair. And honestly, anytime you call up, I'll be very, very ready to join you,
yes.
You know.
Okay. My question goes back to there's a province in Spain, Catalonia, that have been arguing for independence, but it's the richest part of Catalonia. The Catalonians have always elected their local leadership to represent their separatist ambition. Is this not a wrong strategy for Ndibo not to elect a leadership, not to put their energy in electing a leadership that will represent them in the conversations in Nigeria? Is there something faulty with allowing a seat at home that will allow people to hijack the election, military or police forces to rig the election in favor of a preferred candidate? Is this not a wrong strategy? And Senator Abaribe and Captain, you can speak to this.
Yeah, well, to me, if you ask me, we look at the economic loss that our own side is having now. With due respect to the other part of Nigeria or our nation, they really don't care because it does not affect them. But look at all these women with children that they only know how to go to the marketplaces, they only know how to go to the offices, farm, and they can't make any move. And nobody's giving them any subvention to cater for their well-being during these days that we sit at home. So to me, I think it's a wrong approach. All I can tell these young men and our young sisters is that as long as Lord God gives us this life, we'll be able to fight for them, the last strength that we have. But we shouldn't encourage this issue of sit-at-home syndrome or else we'll just be losing a lot of money. And I'm sure some part of this country are so happy that this is happening to us. For all I care, because I talked to some of them, they'll wait that this thing continues for as long as it takes. Every Monday, let them sit at home. They don't care. That's my own take.
Yes, Senator.
Senator went to the bathroom.
Okay.
So, the president from Canada wants to say something.
Yes, can the president say something? Yes, he can.
Okay, hello. Yeah, my name is Paul Ndukwe. I'm a Reverend Minister and I live in Canada. You cited what is happening in Barcelona, and let me make a comment on that, because the comment I want to make on that area is that you have people that are determined to develop themselves. So they decided to do something and they got a good development that was an envy to the Spanish government. If we begin to work together and we begin to say, develop ourselves. Once we begin to develop ourselves, what will happen is it will affect the economy of our place, and the economy of the Igbo land will grow stronger. And once it grows stronger, we will be the envy of the other communities, of the other nation. But if we do not work together, you see, there's a saying, Abakota Nyomambri is one. But let me say this, it's not, it's honorable, but we forget that memory relationship. We forget that memory makes a whole. Let us make an impact by having a collective thing together. Once we do that, I assure us that we will remain the envy of another community because we are developing ourselves. And that's what I want to say in that area of your comment. Now, in the other area where you talk about sit at home, I just came from Mumbai. My dear, it's not really helping us at all. It's not helping our community. We can do other things strategically without affecting the grassroots community, because the grassroots community are the ones being affected, not the echelon of the society. We can now rearrange the strategy on the echelon of society, but not on the grassroots, because the grassroots are the ones affected now. I live in Canada, but I am here in Nigeria and I know what's happening. Sit at home loses millions of naira for the Igbo man. It does not help the Igbo man. That's my own take.
Sam, we didn't hear you towards the end of it before you disconnected.
Sure.
Can you quickly make that point you were making, because we lost you for a few minutes, yes, before you went on.
Okay, so the point I was making was that there are probable causes, which is failure of governance, discontinuity by the Nigerian state, but they do not justify the strategy they're employing. So let's be very practical. Many Igbos may have some support for Biafra, whether as economic Biafra or whether as physical Biafra, but they would not think that it's something you can wrestle with violence in some kind of guerrilla formation. And distinguish, Abaribe made a point around Ambazonia. That model is a model of self-destruction. You cause your place to become a desert. You bring war to yourself, and the federal government of Cameroon doesn't care about what they're doing. So you now create an extortionist infrastructure where you extort the people. And so it ends up enslaving Igbos. And if you look at our culture, we are a people who value freedom. It doesn't matter what you're going to give us. If you tell people that they can't decide when to go out or come in, there are a few people, for whatever good reason, decide for us when we should be locked down. I mean, the notion of lockdown is something that our forefathers wouldn't have imagined in their life. The time will come where some well-meaning patriotic Igbos will lock the rest of us down. So for me, there's basically no justification for the turn in which the struggle, whatever it is, has taken. When IPOB was banned or prescribed, I went to court myself. there was no basis for that prosecution. But we supported the democratic right of anybody to seek for self-determination. And it will come to a political process. Don't forget that the first Biafra was declared by a government properly constituted, the military government of Eastern Nigeria, through a process of democratic accountability. So the idea that you can get a state or a republic through a non-profit private initiative outside organized political arrangement through consultation and election and appointment is one that has no basis globally anywhere in the world. Whether it's Catalonia, whether it's East Europeans, you have elected leaders who champion the desire of the people and go to a negotiation to win for them political freedom. So this model, this franchise of winning, delivering a people from a territory through non-profit intervention at most, is one that will end in criminality, will end in anarchy, will end in violence and destruction. So it was inevitable. So I totally think that I'm opposed to any notion of a lockdown. A lockdown suggests primitive enslavement of our people, such that people tell us when to go out, when to come in. Let's even forget the huge economic loss. It doesn't in any way push our case. By the way, if you go to US or in any diplomatic circle, and somebody says a group decides to lock down a region and says anybody who comes out will be dealt with, that group is taking a tag of terror. It's really, in a language, it's terror, because you are terrorizing people. You can't plead to be a democratic entity and imposing forceful lockdown on the people. So I think it's self-defeatist. I think it brands the groups badly, and I think it's something that we as a people, and I like the position the church leaders have taken to tell our sons, you are angry for justified cause. We press this cause. We engage on a reform of Igbo leadership internally. Let's get back to leadership of Emma Sabun Bakwe, where our leaders are credible and responsive to the needs of the people. But that's a red line. We cannot allow our land to become enslaved, to become a battleground, and our young people to be killed, and our economy to be totally. In fact, the future of Nigeria, our strength is in wealth creation. We should be a region that can show by its developmental efforts that we can become a country. We can't be a region that wants to be free and a country when we are spoiling and we are not even showing up well in IGR. We have no economic indicators to show that that's a magic we can do as a sovereign state. So I think it's self-defeating. It doesn't make sense. It's irrational.
This is a very important point. With this point, I totally align myself with this point that Sam has made. We have nothing to show that if we're a sovereign state, we will do better than the rest of Nigeria. We have not shown any evidence. We have not shown any political maturity. We have not shown any electoral intelligence, emotional intelligence in electing leaders that will stand for the people. We have imbibed the culture of money politics. Everybody is discussing money in Anambra elections. So it is not going to be different if we are to migrate tomorrow to Biafra. The state governments are not delivering on the mandates of the state. Our local governments are comatose. Our internally generated revenue is the lowest of any region in Nigeria. Our schools are one of the most dilapidated, despite the fact that private education is pushing our people. So our private sector is very strong. We are doing well, and that private sector is what we want to destroy in the fight against the Nigerian state. This doesn't make sense to me. We can't destroy our private sector because we want to make a point to the Nigerian state. Our greatest strength, our coming together as communities to build schools, to give scholarships to our children, to do apprenticeship schemes, to open markets that will attract people from across the region, is what we want to destroy in fighting a government the type that Buhari has done in Nigeria. So what I'm asking is, 2 years after the line, and President Buhari is out. So when President Buhari is out of office in 2023, what would now be the conversation? If tomorrow they ask us, we want to go and have a referendum, which economy are we going back to? An economy where our markets are no more functioning? An economy where our children didn't go to school? Is that the economy we will use to build a new sovereign nation? So I think that the point we are going to be making is that for those who keep saying election is not an issue, why don't you mobilize around making sure we elect the leaders that will represent your viewpoint? It is scandalous that there is no 1 square kilometer of Anambra State where there is running water. It is scandalous that there is no pipe-borne water in any state. If you are a child born around here like Anambra and you are 20 during the 1999 handover to civilian, that child will never have seen a traffic light because there are no traffic lights anywhere in most of Anambra South. If they go out today and come to Lagos, they haven't seen an escalator. If you take the children in Anambra in Onitsha today and show them an escalator, they don't know what an escalator is. The tallest building we had in Igbo land was ACB building in Enugu. 30 years after, 40 years after, 50 years after the war, we don't have buildings that use lifts in Anambra State, except maybe Senator Nduba's house and a few private homes and central bank office. There are no lifts in Anambra, showing you the weakness of our economy. And that same economy is what we want to destroy because we want to spite the federal government of Nigeria. It just doesn't make sense. What I call for is if it makes sense, if we want to elect a leadership that will speak for us, then let's go out and do it. We saw the Northerners vote for President Buhari 2 times. We saw them keep voting for him even when he loses the election. They didn't ask for money. They went and kept voting for him. Why can't we do that? Why can't we elect governors that will go out and speak for us? So the point I'm making, and coming back to you people in the room here, is what do we do to discuss about getting this alternate view? IPOB, we have engaged with Senator Abaribe and myself, and I'm sure Sam Amadi at his own point had engaged with IPOB at various levels. I have spoken to them about making your agitation peaceful, making it non-violent, mobilizing the political structures to elect people that will represent their point of view. But going the violent way, forcing us to sit at home when we don't want to, determining who goes out and who comes in, killing Professor Akunyili in the name of unknown gunmen inside Anambra State is something that cannot work. Because at the end of the day, which economy are we going to come back to? The economy we have destroyed. After the COVID, people had left offices in New York. They're no more going back to those offices. Once people like Senator Abaribe say, finds out where they can buy things without coming to the Southeast, they're not going to come back after the violence. So I want us to begin to wrap up this conversation around what is the way forward. How can we agitate about our issues in Nigeria? Those who want Biafra, how can they agitate for Biafra without destroying our local economy, which is our greatest strength? Senator Abaribe, I push that question to you. How can they do that without destroying our local economy? What is our greatest strength, which is private economy, is what we are destroying today.
Well, what I said at the beginning, if you recollect, is that people who used to come to Aba to do business are now finding alternatives. And any alternative they find means that we lose that market. And our people are dependent on the markets in and around us across the whole of West Africa and the rest of Nigeria. So the point now is this. There have been agitations everywhere else. In Spain, in Catalonia region, they have also had agitations. But what they have done is that they have made sure that they elect those people that are interested in their agitations, to be in their parliaments. So, not participating now make sure that you don't even have a voice to be able to say something for you. In other words, we hurt ourselves when we do not participate. That is the position. So we want to ensure that everybody and the people who are interested and connected and can talk about your interests are those that are there for you. Because we cannot wish away the rest of the world that is around you.
So I totally agree with that point of view. And the challenge we have today now is that, like I pointed out, we have IPOP ESN, then we have this unknown government, which is an umbrella acronym for all kinds of criminal activities. So we do not even know who is issuing the order. We do not know which order we are obeying. We do not know who is enforcing the order. So how can we engage in the Southeast to bring this to a halt? Because this is destroying our most important competitiveness, our private sector. Sam?
Yeah, I think I will propose two options. One is a civic angle. We need to have all the leaders of good conscience come out and take a position. And the position is very simple. We will not solve all the problems. We will not even convince either it's IPOP or ESN or anybody to join politics, because they can say, look, there's no road here. You know, the political road is closed. You guys are going nowhere. So that they could stay. But what we can do is very simple. The state governors, and I blame them, the primary work of a state governor is security. They have responsibility. So if I was a state governor in Imo State, first, I will seek to have conversation with IPOP or whichever group and say, look, let's try to find out what are actionable things. Okay, there are many issues. We prescribe IPOP, reason the Kano. Those are issues that are capable of being taken politically, process it, and hopefully get a solution. But there must be a red line where nobody can cross. That red line is that a state must be, you can't come to a state and say you are going to impose any order. I mean, it's totally irresponsible. I wouldn't mind hiring 27 buses for 27 local governments to put it there with security of all kinds to take workers to their everywhere. Even if you spend 200 million to defeat a lockdown order, you've done their job well. Because the implication of allowing this recklessness is that any group, including the non-government who don't know who they are, can come in and shut down the state, terrorize citizens from going out and do their business. So I would say 2-track, one civic, engagement, dialogue, appeal like we are doing here. This is not working for us. Second is law enforcement. Law enforcement, by all means necessary. Make sure people are free to move around. So you must draw the line. That's a line. That's my own worry. I'm not against all forms of agitations, but I'm against agitations that, one, imprison our people to what is strange to us. This is not Afghanistan. It's in Afghanistan and such places that a group of do-gooders, whatever is the ideology or belief, doesn't matter, will take over and say, this is what should happen. So that means basically there's no government. So I think that some people argue that in the Northwest, in the Northeast, Northwest, they are bottling their bandits and terrorists. I said, in the Southeast, we should not do so. It must be a place that is free, a place that is governed. People may not agree with the governor. I come from Imo State. You may not like Opuzodema, or you may not like Obiano, but the minimum that we Igbo leaders must concede, there must be a government. And there are certain responsibilities that must be handled by traditional or political authority. In a community where some people impose laws, determine when citizens move out, is a failed region. So my answer, Osita, honestly, would be that we make the best effort to reconcile our brothers, ourselves, discuss, but we should, whether it's unknown government or the federal flag operation of the Nigerian Army Security Operatives, all the state governors in the Southeast should show strength, put resources together, and ensure that no sit at home works. Because the danger of a sit at home is that it's a slippery slope. You could get to a point where people in your neighborhood, in your community, in your villages will decide, one or two people will decide that they are enforcing an order that has been given to do one or two things. We don't want to be a lawless society. So I'm in support of peaceful negotiation, discussion with the youth, with IPOB, which is important. There should be a structured conversation with them. But whether we get a decision or not, we must maintain basic rule of law situation that enables economic development, that improves human welfare, while we work and wait for the liberation of Southeast, any political crisis in Nigeria. We can't mortgage minimum rule of law and order.
Yes, very important that law and order must be maintained. I have made it clear that IPOB ESN is operating and that unknown government is now an umbrella group. When I talked about Professor Akunyili, I'm talking about the killings by unknown government. Correct. Because if it was IPOB, I will expect them to come out and claim responsibility. So as far as we are concerned, it was done by unknown government. But this unknown government is now an umbrella group for all kinds of groups operating in the East. And we don't know who will be the next target.
Just to add something here.
Yes.
Have you noticed that there is no more armed robbery? There's no more criminality. There's no more cultists and all that. All of them have moved in.
To unknown government.
And they have collapsed into unknown government. So they now carry out all manners of nefarious activities. And when they carry it out, they now claim that they are IPOB, ESN, or whatever. That's what is going on now. So people get up and go and rob a bank. And they say, oh, it's unknown government. People rob people on the way. They say it's unknown government. People go and carry people's things on the day that there's a sit at home. It's unknown government. So everybody is scared. Nobody wants to open their shops because you're not sure. That's what is going on now.
Yes.
That's why we have to.
What will be the way forward? I for one know that the IPOB is no more fully in control of what's going on in the East. So engaging IPOB is one thing everybody have talked about. So what should be the next steps? What should be the next steps?
Themselves are telling you that they are not the people who are giving all these orders.
Yes.
So nobody is understanding who else is doing that. So anybody who's an anarchist who wants to make sure that
that's why
yes, go ahead, Sam.
That's why we need enhanced state law enforcement action. I mean, it's like lawlessness. It's like a band of criminals. They say it's not IPOB. They said it's not us. So government has the first responsibility is to first stop these whoever it is. My concern is you are sowing a seed of lawlessness, and once it thrives, people, all kinds of criminals, people who have private issues to settle, with their neighbors, we ride on the bandwagon of unknown government, and then nobody see. It's easier to do business in Zamfara than to do in the Southeast. Well, it's easy because you can understand that chaos, and you can factor it in your business analysis. You can factor the fact that probably there will be terrorists who are going to attack you. You form a private militia to protect you. But you can't factor what you call generalized chaos. You don't know where it's coming from. There is no defined war front. The whole place is open to anything. So one afternoon, you hear that unknown government stormed the place. The next day, life is normal. Then the other day somebody says tomorrow nobody should come out. You don't know whether it is official, you don't know whether it's a non-government. So basically, it's difficult to do business. I will argue that it's easier. That's why you see some of these Americans do business in Afghanistan or Iraq where there's war. But it's difficult to do business when it's uncertainty, generalized uncertainty. That's why what's happening in the Southeast might actually be more dangerous and damaging than what is happening in the Northeast.
So the going forward strategy is, how do we go forward? How do we engage these groups? IPOB, we all know, Nnamdi Kanu is currently detained by the government. The court case is going on. His bailers are here. Those of us who participated in getting him out are here. And we are waiting for the government to tell us the next steps. If they will grant him bail or not.
Tell us when to come next to bail him out the next time.
Yes, we are waiting for them to tell us when to come next. We have lost our deposits for his first escape, but we are ready and waiting because we need to engage to solve this problem. But before then, what do we do to ask all the groups to step down violence, allow elections to go on in the Southeast, to make sure we elect governors that can help us engage the federal government, even in the issue of release of Nnamdi Kanu, even in the release of the prescription of IPOB, even engaging IPOB to renounce violence and continue on the path of social agitation, which is allowed in every democratic system, and to engage in the public space, political space, because any act of violence negates through agitation. So how do we go forward in making this call today? That will be our last part of this conversation. Starting from Senator.
Well, the only way to go forward is that we need to find the people who actually carry some weight with these different groups. There are some of them that we know. There are some that I know. And I've been having conversations with them. And it is actually why I'm so worried about it. Because part of my conversation with them has always come out to be fact that they say, we are not doing this. That's what they always say. And you wonder, if they say that they are not doing it, who is now the person giving this and dishing out these orders? Secondly, we must also continue to engage with the federal government, engage with the Attorney General, engage with them, because the political process, the legal process of Nnamdi Kanu will eventually have to be settled politically, because I don't see how they are going to settle it legally. Yes. And what that means is that if we engage with the federal government, have access to Nnamdi as freely as we want, and be able to also engage all of them in a conversation, I'm sure Nnamdi himself in a conversation will understand what is going on around here and how he would. Because what he's doing is his love for his people. If you love your people, you don't make them to suffer. That is the fact. So that will be the second stage, being able to engage with him through the federal government. And then, of course, we have to get down to our people and let everybody understand that we have to live first. We have to be alive before we can have a country. If every one of us dies, then what is the reason for a country then? That's the point. So you don't hurt yourself in order to be able to make the other man feel that you have a problem. He will not bother. And so what is going on today is that the federal government is actually not bothered. No matter how we put it. I've read some things where people say, oh, it's hurting the rest of the economy. And so these are people who don't understand the economy. So that is hurting your economy, don't mean anything to them. All that they're interested in is to have the visceral power that they have today. So, ndị Igbo sị na anyị na-eme with akọ na uche. So I need the akọ na uche now, more than ever before. Ndewo.
Dalo. Sam.
Well, I think Distinguished has said it in the proper way. First is that you, Osita and Distinguished, you have traction with the groups and of course with government. So I think exploring these negotiations are very important. And by the way, the federal government will have more incentive because if you look at the case as a lawyer, I don't think it's easy to convict on those charges.
That case is a difficult case for them.
It's a difficult case to win. So they can't, I don't find easy for them to convict them of those offenses. So there's a more incentive to explore political settlement. Yes. And I think that's where we should go. So there should be greater clamor by Igbo leadership, some of us, everybody, to say, federal government, negotiate this out all over the world, political negotiations. Especially when there's no direct evidence of real criminal action, apart from just it's equivalent of Trump being charged for Capitol crisis. So you can do political ownership, but not legal criminal, attribution, direct evidence that this person actually say kill Mr. B or do this and that. So I think it makes sense to secure political settlement. Again, going forward, I think we should also, part of the Anambra election, that maybe tonight or tomorrow, all the groups should come out publicly to say, Ndibo, go and vote. I do not believe in the outcome of the votes as it is. I mean, there are too many uncertainties, so many issues to deal with electoral reform. But essentially, that act of Anambra voting is part of our affirmation of our self-determination as a people. It aligns with the whole mission of the Biafra movement. So if our people cannot determine themselves as to who is their governor, then they're not anywhere close to determine themselves as an entity. Very important. And again, ultimately, like I said before, all successful self-determination have been led by governments. When the movements take over power through elected leadership, they're in a position to declare a republic, worst case scenario, through resolution of their parliament, or even negotiate and get to a table where everybody agrees that some level of separation. But whatever is the agenda, it has to go through a political process. And having very reliable, by the way, you are able to, you and the Distinguished are able to support in the bell because you had a standing to do that. So if you have governors, legislators who share a vision, that's how democracies work all over the world. There's no other way that they're going to wage a revolutionary war and succeed, and the prospect is not there. So you just have to accept the fact that that's politics. You play it. It might not be routine politics. You may play revolutionary politics. You may play the politics of extremism. You may mobilize and form a new party. Howsoever, we need to allow our people to vote. So I think IPOB and whoever, MASOB and all the groups, I've heard MASOB come out and say, we vote. So if IPOB comes tomorrow and say, everybody should, those who want to vote should vote tomorrow, on Saturday, it goes a long way also to restore the support of people elites and then help enable us push for a political settlement for Nadekaro, who is a patriotic Igbo son, and also hopefully deproscribing the group so that Igbo youth are not at risk of state persecution on the basis of mere membership of an organization. I think that's the way to go forward.
So we're bringing this to a conclusion, and I will give the senator the last word. If I summarize to say that from these conversations, we're saying that not allowing voting in Anambra is actually a denial of our self-determination, being able to choose our own local leaders. And secondly, the seat at home is hurting our economy, which is our major competitiveness. Our private sector is being hurt by this seat at home. And then we're asking all the groups involved in any form of agitation to come out and ask Anambra people to go out and vote and choose that leader that approximates to the type of leader they would like to see representing Igbo in the conversations about our future. I don't know if this summarizes what I hear from this conversation, Senator.
Precisely, that summarizes it. The final thing I'm going to add is that the judge, when Nnamdi Kanu was given bail, said that they wanted a senator to sign for Nnamdi Kanu's bail.
Yes.
If I was not a senator, then Nnamdi Kanu would have still been in detention up till now.
Yes.
So the point really is this: you have to vote and bring in your people and be a player in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Staying outside without being a player in the field, you will never score a goal. So if the people want us to be able to score the goal of getting to where they want as IPOB, then they have to have players in the field. And the players are the governors, the legislators, the people from all walks and crannies who are in government. You can't run away from it. Thank you.
Wonderful. And I will further make that point, buttress that point, that in the negotiation to get the bill from Nnamdi Kanu was one of the fastest things that we put together.
Yes.
Senator Abaribe is actually not the senator representing Nnamdi Kanu, but he came forward.
I wasn't.
Yes, he's not the senator representing Nnamdi Kanu, but he came forward and signed that bill. The person that came from the Judaism place came forward, a businessman came forward, and the money and the property was put forward to cover the 400 million naira charge to bring him out, which is all still in possession of the federal government.
The courts are still holding the 400 million.
Yes, the court is still holding it. And if we didn't have people who could pull this together, if we didn't have a senator who would step forward, if we didn't have people who have the wherewithal, I want to tell a story. When Nnamdi was given bail, throughout the day, they delayed in communicating the Kuje prison. Around 5 p.m., they communicated that the director of prison has now confirmed he could leave. Nnamdi was worried. He said this must be a ploy to get him out in the evening, and they may harm him in the way. That was why I went to Kuje myself and picked him with my car and brought him to town. Because he was afraid that these people's plan of keeping him from afternoon all the way till almost 6 p.m. was a strategy to accuse him of something as he was leaving. So if you, like the senator said, if you don't have people in the march, you can't in the field, you can't score a goal. So it is important that as people vilify the Southeast leadership, as people vilified the people, those of us who are keeping quiet and watching to see how the government will react next, it is important that we allow a leadership to be elected who can join in helping us in this conversation, who can go and see the Attorney General, who can go and see the President, if need be, to discuss the release. In fact, in 2003, it was Senator Uchechukwu Merije that went to...
Leading all of us. I was part of that delegation.
Sure.
To bring out the Masob leader then.
Masob leader. And many people do not know that the Masob leader is still technically on bail since 2003. So that's what happens when there is a political solution. The case never came back to trial. So he went on bail, and Igbo leaders went and took him, and he has remained on bail since then.
And even Anim Pius was secretary, I guess.
Yes.
Yes.
Anim Pius was secretary.
Yes.
Secretary to the government.
To the government then, yes.
Yes.
I think it was secretary.
It was a Yaradua government.
No, it was the beginning of the Yaradua government. Anim has not become secretary then. It was the beginning of the Yaradua government. Yes. But it was at that time. So that Chukwu Merije negotiated the release. So thank you, everybody. I will reaffirm that we're calling for peaceful election in Anambra, for all the agitation groups to not hurt the Igbo economy in the process of making their point, and to believe that we will find peaceful and credible methods of making our views heard. And we need the politicians to be able to get our voices to be heard in the conversations in Nigeria. So thank you very much. And Sam, last word to our people.
Well, people, well, let's Nkuja Ujo, Nkuja Ujo.
Yes.
Nkuja Ujo. Sometimes we need to beat a retreat, re-strategize, and move forward.
That's
Yes.
true.
Senator.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I'm done.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And good night, everybody.